Hey everybody, welcome back to Space Engineers. Probably should retitle this because the P's have been quested. Hi, yeah, it's a rainy day and I'm sitting here in my quarters, just sitting at my desk watching the rain fall. Because today I'm gonna take the day off from the work. We still have that base, so last week we had finished off the big space. Oh, look, rain's clearing up. The space engineers, the space pirates, regional headquarters that they thought they could set up in my neck of the woods. So I have, after a hard slog, dissuaded them of that idea. So I still have to kind of go gather up all the bits and pieces from there and whatnot. But you know what? I'm going to take the day off today. And instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on the ship that will take me to the stars. So I'm sitting at my desk here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into my simulation world, and we are going to build a blueprint. Okay, so we're in my simulation, what I call the construction yard, and basically this is where I have, it's where I work on my ships. So you can see that it's a bit of a line up there. So I thought we'd just take a little flyby here. So this is the Richelieu. Now, one thing to note, all of these ships here were built in survival. Sort of. I build them in the shipyard, I create the blueprints, and then I bring the blueprints into the survivor world where I then have to supply the resources. Because I hate, welding up ships, so I just usually just have the blueprint going, and there we go. I don't like building large things, complex things like this in survival because it honestly boils down to the symmetry. It's really hard for me to make symmetry in survival, whereas in creative you absolutely can. So this is where I will kind of take the start of a ship from survival. I will take a blueprint of it, I'll bring it into this world, I'll finish off that blueprint, take it back into my survival world, set up a projector, and let the job get done, especially by using the build and repair, the nanobot build and repair system. So that's basically what this represents, is just ships I've built in various survival playthroughs. The first ship here is the Richelieu. Now this ship never actually did make it into survival. It was something I had an idea for, and I just thought I'd kind of put it together. Big long ship. If you watch Andrew Man Gaming channel, in his Survival 2025 series, this is the ship that was featured as the final boss ship, that he had to fight through. So this ship featured prominently. Moving further down, we come to its little brother. There's a couple of little fighters scattered about. This is the Kestrel Strike. One of the things about this ship that, from the idea, it kind of got into a lot of mission creep and scope creep. In other words, it ended up a lot bigger than I actually intended. So I made a smaller variant of it. Essentially, I cut out a section, this middle section right there, and then just kind of shrunk it all down and reorganized things. This was used in survival, and quite effectively it is quite the gunship. I make big boom boom gunships. The next one we have here was from a salvage type or scavenge playthrough. This is the Agamemnon, so it's a cross between the Agamemnon and an amalgamation. That's a freaking tongue twister. So this again is a ship that was in survival. It is in here because working out gluing. It's actually a combination of 3 different ships that were gathered in the playthrough. So from the random encounters, the space pirate counters, and I just kind of pieced them all together. The next ship in the line here is the Lux Novae. This was the second ship I built in Space Engineers. Oh, the sun's doing some weird things. This was from a Shadow. Again, it's from the MEC, one of the, who is it? I think it's Ember. Had a ship that I came across, or actually I smacked really hard. and I expanded onto it, and you can see it's even got a little fighter glued to the back of it there, repair systems, and again, just a massive big ass gun platform. We could keep moving our way down the line here. This is the Cook. It is a planetary exploration vehicle. So it has the big nacelles back here with atmospherics, so it can do full atmospheric flight. It does, in fact, have a working ramp. If it's where's the switch for it? I must have left the switch on the inside. You know, it has a little ramp, so it's got a little bay underneath here for a rover. It's also got a little top bay here for, you know, shuttle, mining vehicle, something, anything like that. So this was, yep, this one was kind of out of my brain. I don't remember if it started from a core of a find. I'm thinking it did. Just based on what the cockpit is, but again, from a survival. This is the Yukagazi. So this again is a survival ship. It's got a nice big open hangar bay there, combined hydrogen and ion thrusters. It's, you know, a ship for survival. It's got refining capability, assembler capability, as well as enough to protect itself with. This one here, what is this guy? This is the Fletcher. So again, based in another survival series. Just a lot of times I just kind of get an idea for a ship, and I just kind of see what I can put together for it. One of the things about Space Engineers, it's hard to get a lot of letters on there, so I just use a sign there to get the name on there. This one comes with really wide, again, it's a victim of scope creep a little bit, in that it got a lot bigger than I actually originally intended to. So it's got matching bays on the side here. It's got an underslung kind of open bay underneath there. Just a very much a large kind of mobile base, which again also leads us to the Vanguard here. Or sorry, the Vambrace. This one again is from the same kind of playthrough. I wasn't super happy with how this one turned out, so I thought I'd try a different idea. A lot of times when I'm playing the game, I just build big ships, build ships, and kind of just see how well they work. Try out different ideas. You know, like having these nice big bay windows, big open kind of airy space. You know, technically it is a one-person ship, but that is the Vambrace. This is the Potterick. So this is from a space start with the little survival pod. You can sort of see what's, you know, the genesis of it in here, but it is expanded. It's made a little longer. Of course, one of the first things you ever want to do with your starting with this ship is get a drill in the nose. It'll just make your life a lot easier. Immediately start drilling out asteroids and stuff. So, you know, if you're going to do a space start with the survival pod, you know, you can expand it into something quite capable. Not easy, you know, very defensible. Single Gatling on there, but it'll certainly keep you alive. This is the Shelby. So the Shelby was also was not seen in the Andrew Man Gaming's 2025 series, but the ship it's attached to, the Welljack, was. So the Welljack again was from a survival series. It took a long time to build. I did, of course, build it in this world here, but from start to finish, its whole purpose is to just be a giant manufacturing plant that drags its own kind of warship along with it, as well as a mining ship, which is currently not attached to it. So again, yeah, you can see this ship. It was featured again in the second to last episode, the preeminent second to last episode of Andrew Man Gaming 2025 series. Moving down, we come to... Who are you? There's so many ships. Which one was which? Okay, yeah, that's right. That one was the Fletcher. This is the Yukagaga. Trying to pronounce Japanese names, and I'm just embarrassing myself. Here, I'll show you what its name is. Oh, this is the Osiris. So the Osiris is actually a update of this one. Yeah, this is the Yukagagi. I'm not use words. Yukikaze, one of the ships from Space Battleship Yamamoto from the early fight at Jupiter, I believe it was. But that's, yeah, was a little bit the inspiration of that. So this one over here, the Osiris, isn't kind of just a modified, kind of glowed up version of that other ship. We come now to the Island Girl. So this was actually started from the Agaris at War scenario. It started out as an actual water-based ship that I converted into a planetary exploration ship. You know, medium amount of guns. It can kind of fend for itself a little bit. Gave me this little guy here, one of my favorite mining ships that I have ever built here. The Rat. That just does a really good job. Very compact size. Yeah, so this again is a planetary exploration vehicle. This is what's became out of the red ship start. So this is the Igor, you know, Frankenstein's assistant. So yeah, this was started off its life as the crashed red ship scenario that I can, you know, finished off, completed, put a new front end on, kind of reworked the hangar bay and stuff like that. We now come to a different version of the Igor. So this was the kind of first version here. You can see the front end here is, you know, the cockpit's right up front, got the kind of lower deck underneath here. Kept getting vented because not a lot of protection. I decided I wanted to build the front up a little bit more, get some guns in here. So we got some rail guns in there. So I had to kind of expand open the cockpit a little bit. So this is kind of a built up version, a lot more kind of oomph to it. First time I actually started using this boarding ramp here. Great little mod, the boarding ramp. So this is the Igor Plus. Over here we have, which one are you? This is one of the newer ones. This is the Akula. Nope, this is the Kepri. So the Kepri again is just what is this one built off? I think this one started out as one of the Osiris variant, which is, yeah, somewhere, which I just changed the hangar bay, changed the front end to it. So again, I like remodeling ships. I'm much better at doing that. Of course, we come to one that was just for fun here. This is the Centennial Hawk. Yeah, obviously it's a bit of a rip-off kind of shape-wise. I just wanted to try something a little bit different. A lot of my ships, you can see, all have a very similar appearance to them. I wanted to kind of break free of my usual build setup, my usual way of building ships, so I thought I'd just have a little fun with this kind of version of the ship. That is not right. Let me just quickly fix this block here. I accidentally put the wrong one in. That's what you're supposed to be. There we go. All right, now we come to this guy here. This is the Abaddon. So this is from a Pertam start. This is actually started out as one of the unknown signals, a hopper, I believe it is, a little atmospheric hopper. I thought it was got a kind of a neat idea to it. I obviously expanded it basically from this point right here all the way back into this ship here, which is a fully space capable and atmospheric capable. We have the Akula. Again, just playing around with different ideas. This case, you know, kind of a cylindrical kind of concept with just lots of guns facing forward, with properly tiered firing arcs so that one turret can't shoot into the back of another turret. But you know, we're kind of again coming back into this almost wedge shape or cone shape, especially on this one. That is predominant on a lot of my ships. So to break that mold, I thought I'd try something like this. This is the Rostov. So the Rostov here, this one is basically just a whole bunch of guns facing forward, you know, a little too far from my flashlight. Just having some good, decent weaponry facing forward onto this kind of flat blade here. Not a lot of space inside, but it's not meant to have space inside. It is a one-person ship. Very, you know, basic refining, some assembly just for repair systems and for repair out in the world. This was actually because this one here kept getting its lunch money taken away. So I thought, you know what? I found myself a base. Once I had a base set up, I wanted to give him a little big brother here that can exact some revenge and get all that lunch money back. And that's what catches us up today. So I'm currently working on something else here, just kind of playing around with some ideas. And over here, this is kind of the core of the Akula, which is a totally internalized, for the most part, thrust systems. You'll notice here that you can see there's no thrust visible anywhere along the ship here, except for the two rear thrusters and, just for honestly color, the 3 ion thrusters here. Otherwise, all of the thrust is internalized. And if we tuck ourselves up in through here, all the thrust for the rest of the directions, including the braking thrust, is right here. We have our up thrusters, we have our down thrusters, and we have our side thrusters. So the thing that you should know about the thrusters, and how does this work here, is that small thrusters like this, the damage distance is only out 2 blocks. So anything that's outside of 2 blocks is safe. In fact, one of the advantages of using build info, so if I grab my torch here and kind of look at and get the activation box there on that grid, and I hold down control and press the plus sign, you can see that I actually get this little graphical representation. Now it's hard to see. As soon as I look away, of course, it disappears. But if I hold shift and hit R, it will lock that in, and you can actually see that's your actual damage cylinder. Anything that's not inside that distance there is not going to take damage. So you can actually use things like quarter blocks. You can use, even almost get away with half blocks. There are lots of blocks that you can kind of help stylize your thrusters, and as long as it stays out of this this kind of cylinder here, this capsule of damage, whatever is around it will not take any damage. Shift R to turn it off, and I'll just look at other things. The large thruster, of course, it does have a larger damage radius, but if we do the same thing here and I hold Shift R, there we go, you can see that, yes, it has quite a bigger distance, but as long as whatever is in front of it is far enough away, the blocks will be safe, and you won't have to worry about cooking your own ship. And that's what that little thruster pack is. How do I get out of here? Over here. Okay. All right, so now that we're out here, we're actually out here to start designing the ship we're gonna use to get off of planet. Like I say, whenever I'm kind of getting into a big ship build, unless I'm starting from something that I scavenged, I'm always gonna end up in this world here to do my planning out. And I've got a bit of an idea that I want to give a try on, and we'll see how well it works out. But I've got the concept, I just now have to implement it. And that concept is going to start with a conveyor block right here. Now, I like to keep things more or less in a line here, so I'm going to use this guy to kind of snap it so I get the alignment. Let's move ourselves well over out of the way, and we'll just drop that block down. You're not moving, are you? No, you're not. Okay. So, we're going to start with that. We're going to now activate symmetry here. So there we go. So I've now activated my symmetry. So you push N when you're in creative, and that'll bring the symmetry up. If you haven't set the symmetry, you press M, and that'll give you this kind of red. That is my X symmetry. So if I now hit my left mouse button, that's going to set that block now as the center. So where that red line is cutting through is the middle of that block. If I hit M again, you can see if I'm going to do like an even symmetry. So if I slide over a little bit, I can set an even symmetry. So this would be for the first one would be for odd symmetry, even symmetry. So that's X. We can set up for a Y, so up and down. And again, even symmetry. Z, and then again N to kind of turn that on and off. And what that means is with the nice symmetry, and this is why I like to do this in creative, is that if I put a block on one side, it's going to automatically add that block to the other side. So I'm going to go out here, let's say 7 blocks. So I'm just trying to think about how wide the ship needs to be. I'm not going to make this super, super huge, even though I do have some ideas for the interior space, but I'm going to try to keep my interior space 3 blocks wide. As opposed to what I usually do, which is, big open concepts. I'm going to go try and do something a little bit more like the Encounters, which is I'm going to try to keep myself within only 3 width there. But I am going to want some sort of docking bay for either a tug or a drill ship. So probably going to want 5 blocks. And then whatever outside armor block there is for what this first part's going to be. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my armored blocks. I'm going to throw in a 90 degree like that. I'm going to do another one here. We're going to go to one of these and we're going to build this out a little bit. Now it's going to be a little bit kind of hard to visualize. To where the thicknesses and stuff are going to be, but I think if I do this a couple of times, that should be fine. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go out one more, and then we'll do another one here. Oops, rolled it the wrong way. Like that. And then like that. Okay, and then from here, we're going to put in one of those. And then we can go and grab ourselves a fuel tank. So we'll go grab one of these. Nope, that's an O2 generator. Not yet. Wait your turn. There we go. That's the block I need. Okay, so I'm going to put in a fuel tank here. And one right behind it. So you can start seeing that, get the gist of what I'm kind of thinking I'm doing for this one. In fact, if you think about the Nadu, that's where I'm kind of going towards this. Is that same kind of idea of the forward swept nacelles with everything else in behind-ish. I don't know if it's going to work yet, but it's certainly what I want to try. Okay, let's do a little bit of armoring now. So we're going to have these nacelles coming out. Like that. Again, we're going to come to here. And then for here, actually, let's do this differently. I don't want these things to be delicate little, well, there goes all my fuel and propulsion. But I also don't want them to be super, super, super overly beefy. And I'll just put random blocks everywhere. I am working in my usual kind of gray battered armor. For me, I find it better easier for visualization instead of thinking about the color. Eventually, the block will get color, but for now, we're just going to use this here. All right, so then we can come in like that. And then we can do something like that. And then on the back side, same. Except here, I'm going to use the half block, and then we'll use these. Stop adding one too many blocks. All right, so something like that, and then for the top of it, we're going to make sure we do have armor. We'll use these kind of corner fancy ones like this, then we can drop down to these little guys here. Except for here, we'll use a different one there, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's get that in. Likewise on the bottom side. There we go. So when I'm building ships, I kind of like to get the central feature in, and this is the central feature that's been bouncing around in my brain for the last little while. Nope, we want this guy. Wait, no, I want that one. Oh, which block goes in there? Damn it. Yep, that's the one. So I will usually try to get the essential feature in, and that what that does is just kind of helps me visualize, or at least gives me that start point. It gives me the thing to draw a scale to see where I might need to do revisions for the design, if any, and so forth. All right, that can go there. I'll leave that one off. That can go there. There. And then we go in with this guy. Like that, like that. You can go there. And to there. And we'll get something like that for the nacelles. All right. So, like I say, I want to get this part figured out first because I can already see that I'm going to need to pull all of this stuff out. Now remember, which one is the front? This is towards the back. Because there was something else I needed to do down here. And this is, again, also why I like to do this in creative mode and not in survival. Is that, one, it's a lot easier to kind of visualize what the heck you're doing. When you can see the full blocks, and it's a lot easier to kind of add something, take it away, not like it, add something. I'm going to leave that upper. Yeah, I'm going to leave those upper ones there. So it's a lot, yeah, you can do the kind of prototyping just a lot faster and a lot more convenient. You know, I don't find necessarily a super amount of challenge or fun gameplay when I'm just kind of, you know, hammering blocks together. You know, I really do want to do iterative. I don't know what I'm talking about right now. Okay, so the reason I wanted to open that up a little bit more is because I is going to be taking off from planet. I'm going to have, you know, lift thrust and whatnot, but just because hydrogen is not necessarily free, I also want to put some lift thrust for Atmos underneath here. So let's get 4 of these big guys like that. It doesn't look too bad. And we can grab some more blocks. Let's take that one out of there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then we can put these guys back in. Like that. Like I said, I'm going to leave these guys here because, you know, you can kind of have like a little bit of a wing shape here. Maybe something along those lines. We'll change it up right here to cutting across like that. And then we can put one of these in this space. This fella here. And just kind of work our way. What am I doing? No, here I need to change to these. There we go. And then I don't have to change anything at the front. Okay, so how are we looking here? Again, we really need some better sunlight, so let's bring the sun around here. Another reason why doing this in the simulation world's a lot easier. It's a lot more convenient to move that. Okay. A little bit also, I think, some kind of back of the mind inspiration is coming from, now this is going to go for the old folks here. Young folks probably won't have any idea what I'm talking about. But a movie from the mid-'80s called The Last Starfighter. It was the first, so Tron was kind of the first quote-unquote CGI movie that was produced. Disney's Tron back in early 80s, I think 82, 83, is somewhere given in that area. But yes, it had computer graphics, you know, the tanks, the light cycles, the recognizers, but there was also a lot of optical special effects going on. So they were using things that were practical effects that they made in post look more CG, namely things like the costuming and a lot of the sets. Only some of the exterior stuff was CG, but a lot of the interior stuff were actual physical sets. They just made to live within that kind of style choice, that art direction. A few years later, The Last Starfighter came out, and that was all of the effects were 100% CG. So all the spaceships. Now, again, the costuming was practical, but they were trying to go for that photorealistic move. So anytime you saw any of the kind of the futuristic craft flying around in space or anything like that, that would have been CG. So in the story, the whole reason I bring that up is because there was the bad guy ship, which was a carrier, which kind of had similar vibes to this. Who knows where the inspiration comes from? That was a lot of rambling. Okay, where are you? There you are. Get you there and you there. And then there. And there. Okay. And then conveniently, I can still, let's say right there. Let's grab a conveyor junction. And we can put one there. We'll go back to our armored conveyor. Put that there. And I can't do that on the underside, obviously, because we have our thrusters here. But that gives me a place for a weapon. Because I am not going into space without having teeth. All right, so that's got that. Now, just to kind of plug things in, I'm going to use some armor conveyors just a little to bring this out just a little bit. Actually, you know what? This might be a good place to put and O2 H2 generator. So let's put one of you guys there. All of this is subject to change, but for now, gives me a framework. I'm going to go to my new favorites, which are these guys. So we now have forward thrust. And then we can start thinking about our other directions. So I'm going to try to keep most of my thrust in these nacelles here. Now it will make the nacelles quite tall. So I'm just looking for any kind of efficiency. Now I'm going to need a lot of lift. Stretch these out across these tanks here. Likewise here. Now I'm not internalizing any of the thrusters. You know, I kind of toyed with the idea. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I do use this, or a variant of. No. Let's just see how big this ends up looking. I'm also thinking about my lift thrust. Primary lift. This is, you know, the atmospherics are to help save fuel when I'm in a full gravity well in atmosphere. But at a certain altitude, they stop working. So I want to make sure I have some decent power. So let's do a little... I'm going to try something here. Let's see how this works. Let's grab that O2 generator again. But this time I'm going to flip it around so that conveyor is sitting right there. Then we grab and I'll just use a conveyor junction for quick convenience. Let's put these guys there for making sure we have redundancy. No, I'm not going to use that. I am going to, though, grab my hydrogen thrusters back, like that. And then I actually have a space to put one of these guys in right there. How beefy is that looking? So those two guys there. Okay, well, you know what? Let's see what we can get this to look like. So I want these guys going there. Yeah, so with those two big guys there, and then I still take my junctions here, cross like that, and then I go back to the thrusters and flip you upside, right side up. So those are actually now at the same height. And I can come out with these. Maybe not these guys. Yeah, let's just take these guys out. I'll leave that one there. And we can grab some armor blocks. And see if we can't get some shape into this thing. So we go with that. Then we go with one of these. And one of those. And one of those. And one of those. I'm just trying to see how I can get, you know, some of that round shaping in here. maybe something like this, and then we come in with this guy. And I don't... It starts looking too massive and bulky. I might change things up, like over here. I'm gonna probably move that. Move that. All right, so I started the slope down pretty much right away. Over here. Why don't I try? Let's do a little bit different of a shape. What would happen if I came back like that? How about if I came back to there? Put you there. I'm gonna do something different in this corner here. Yeah, okay. Then here, what do we got in the way of fancy blocks in the transition? Yeah, that's ugly. Why don't we just kind of go back to this? Yeah, that'll work. There. I'm gonna go like that. And this is the front. That. I don't normally do the shaping, but you know, this is kind of the central. I mean, when I do the shaping, the armoring this early in the build. But this is kind of a critical element of the design, so I want to make sure I get it right away. What else we got? Yeah, there we go. That's the one. Because then I can do that. And then I could do the same thing actually over here. Okay, yeah. Now that I've done that, how does that make the top of the nacelle look? Because it is a thickie. Because I've got those fuel tanks out here. Out here, I think it'll actually be pretty straightforward. We'll just go like that. Up to there. And let me throw one of those in. Then we drop you back there. And we'll do the same up here. Um, is there any reason for me to do that? How does that work? Yeah, because that is kind of how it happened on the bottom. Okay, well, let's tie all this in together. Now, a lot of these iron armor blocks probably will get replaced at some point. So right now they're just kind of just roughing it in, blocking everything in until I'm more or less going to be satisfied by what I end up with. Go like that, go like that. Yeah, that gives me a little bit of an interesting shape, and then I can put one of these in the corner. Okay, that comes together anyway. So I got my forward thrust with super amounts of thickness here. If I went a little bit more like that, change that out, something like that. Change these two guys out. Like that. Yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll go there. All right. And same thing on the bottom here. Like that. Okay, that gives me plenty of thrust. I think that also makes these guys a little bit more optional, so if I want to ditch them in favor of maybe moving that turret to the bottom as well as the one on the top here, so I'm going to have to do another tap line, but yeah, I think that... Okay, that gives me a start point. As far as brakes go, brakes are good. It's also useful to have brakes. Thing is, though, is that just one big ass thruster sticking out the front is not one of my favorite things, and I'm thinking instead of doing one big ass thruster, tap into that line. No, I'm going to go back a little further. Yeah, let's set these back. In fact, just to make clear, I'm going to use curved. There we go. Take that one out of there. Take that one out of there. You can go that way. You can just go. We can pop that block out. Get you there. You there. Pop you two out. No, it still works back here. Don't need you. Don't need you. Yep. Like that. And then one more here. Okay, I mean, obviously I can't get too close because of the tank being there, but now if I go and grab these... Yeah, the new ones here really are my favorites. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah. Let's go back to our conveyors for a quick sec. Because then I'm going to put those guys there. Yeah. Nope. Right now, I am completely and utterly freeballing. Oops. Let's take that thruster out. That way that's not a problem. There we go. Okay, so that's 3, 6, 9, 12 of those. Let's come out 1, 2. Let's actually use the armored conveyors because then I have attachment points on the outside. 1, 2, 3. So again, I'm just, taking an idea that popped into my head and just seeing what I can do to make it look prettier. So if we take... actually, let's go to these. So again, I showed you that cone of damage, which means... you can use quarter blocks and they won't get damaged because they won't fall inside of that damage area. So I'm going to pop a bunch of these in here. Just so there's a little bit of, decorative touches. I need another armor block there, and I need one there. Then we can go back to our quarter blocks and put you... I'm actually gonna... let's do this again. Because there's a flat side, that's the walking side. I accidentally deleted the thruster, but that's okay. That one's fine. And then take these two out. And rotate you that way, put you there. Pop you out of there. Does that work? No, that is way too big. Let's try something else. And this is why I like to do it in creative. Okay, so that is our main connection. So this guy has to absolutely stay connected. So let's put that armor conveyor back in. There we go. So that makes sure our fuel. Instead of me... yeah, you don't need to be there. Because I'd like to start bringing all of this in a little sooner. Not on this side, but it's okay. So what I'm going to do here instead is I kind of like the idea I was going for. Okay, now let's grab our thrusters. That's not awful, is it? Let's grab our quarter bits. They're all snapping into place, which is good. And then for that, because I can't go to the end of the thruster, we can do what? I have no idea what we can do. We're gonna have a corner light. We're gonna have a corner light like that. And then put the quarter in? Let's see what we can do for armoring it all together. That. Nope, not quite. Missing a few blocks here. Hang on. Spoke too soon. They're talking again too soon. We're gonna put that there, and then we can put these one there, that one there, and you can go there. And we'll fill that in. And we'll fill that in. Okay, what else do I need? We need to finish off. Sure. Hey, I think that for the most part gives me that shape. I feel a bit stubby, but I'll see what happens when I get the rest of the ship brought in. And then we'll put everything kind of below that and work up from there. Okay, now the last little bit on here, again, very temporary, very temporary type decisions on the moment here, but you can do for in here just a little bit of tarting it up, just so it's not a big flat surface. Gives it a little bit more visual interest in here. Oh, actually, you know what might work well here? Let's grab some armor blocks. So what I'm trying to do now is just not have big square thingy. Just trying to break up the lines a little bit, and then if we go and grab our Pipeworks, which is this, maybe we can add a little bit of something here. So what do we got? We have I don't really have a lot of room in here. I put you there. You there. Like that. And then up here, you can go like that. And add one of these. Like that. That just, again, just adds a little bit of detailing in there. Terrible. Now if we actually grab a little bit of conduiting. Oh yeah, like the one with the light here. Like that. And just throw a little bit of detailing in there. And then underneath, not really super chuffed about what is happening right here. I'm going to change that up a little bit. There we go. Not quite as visually interesting, but it makes a little bit more sense. Something like that. We still have that. We can throw in here. Actually, in here. Well, some more of these. That's an end. We want a straight. Do something like that inside there. This I thought was going to go somewhere else. It's not, so let's put the thruster back once I remove a few of these extra blocks here. Oops. Actually, I'm going to take the opportunity to work on the inside here for just a quick sec. And then if I take another one of you. Yeah. No? Yeah? No. Let's go that way. And then if we grab our thruster again. And that looks like doo-doo there. And like there. Okay, let's throw a battery on here, just so we can see everything lit up. So I'll grab a battery, pop you right in there. And that becomes our thrust pods. Actually, the front looks kind of interesting. Oh, let's pop that out of there. What did I just erase? Oh, a corner light. Oh my goodness. What does it take to get the bloody thing to actually erase? Okay, let's put the thruster back in. Grab our corridor piece again. There we go. I still like the idea of those corner lights being there, so let's put those two back. Like that, and turn the light off. Yeah, it kind of has an interesting little honeycomb vibe. Aren't you supposed to be... Yes, my symmetry didn't take. And... There we go. That's better. Yeah, you know what? I think I can work with that. So we've got the first part in, which is the thrust package. We have forward thrust, 2 large thrusters. We have downward thrust, a row of, what is that, 14 downward facing thrusters. Of course, side thrusters are always going to be where you suffer and where you punish yourself. I've only got 6 side thrusters. Might need to add some more, but I have, you know, I'm going to have more ship that I could probably do that on. Likewise, I can probably move these, and I think I am going to end up moving those. But we have 10 downward facing or thrust plus the 2 large ones, so that should give me a reasonable amount, at least a few million kilograms worth of thrust. In fact, looking at the chart, it should give me that's one, yeah, it's about 2.5 million kilograms of static lift on 1G. And I don't think, well, the ship could get pretty heavy, but I'm going to try and keep it down. I'm not going to put a full-size refinery on it. I am just going to put in a couple of basic refineries just to make sure that, you know, I have to come down. But that is the mechanics of it. We still need to add, of course, batteries. We need to add gyros. We're going to need oxygen tanks. We're going to need event controllers, timing blocks, living quarters, all that fun stuff. And that's where we're going to go from here. And that's going to be next episode. So I hope you enjoy this pure building episode. There's probably going to be a few more coming. You know, at least I'm going to say 2 more, because I want to lay out the mechanics for the mechanical part for the rest of the ship. I want to figure out what I'm going to do for hangar, and then I also want to figure out what I'm going to get the idea I have percolating for the living quarters, and then bringing it all together into one unified kind of shape. And that's what we're going to be doing for the next little bit. And until next time, thank you guys for watching. As always, if you like the video, please, you know, think about hitting the like button. If you're not subscribed, maybe think about hitting the subscription button. If you want to become a channel member, you can hit the join button below, and I really appreciate your support. So big shout out to Lee Barron, channel member. Thank you, buddy, for your support. But that's going to be it for today. Until next time, thanks for watching this completely new thing, or completely different from what we've kind of been looking at, going into big old spaceship building, as opposed to the kind of base building we were doing. And we'll see where we go from here. And we'll see how this thing pans out. It may turn out to be complete and utter dreck, and we'll have to start again, but we're going to find out. Until next time, thanks for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.